Hello.
Hello, how is the audio?
Good, I can hear you.
Excellent, I can hear you.
You just have one tentacle.
Fabulous. Oh, well, you can't always get what you want.
Good tentacle.
I was, how many, like eight? Is that even possible?
Everybody.
I
This
li-
is the tour edition Echoes from the Future, presented by the MacKenzie Art Gallery, Sauerland, featuring digital artworks by
Aviv
seven
Benn, we have here. Yeah, seven different
amazing
artists. We've got
artists.
Aviv Benn over here, who's an artist from London and Israel. We've got
Let's do a quick
Reiner
let's
Maria.
do a
Oh,
quick
let's
tour
do a
of all.
quick overview.
Fly through.
We've got Reiner Maria Matysik over here from Germany. Woo, flying through. We've got in a moment, just wait for it. Sarah Omach, also from Germany, over here. Their FASO project. We've got Tamiko Thiel and /P, two artists from Germany, with this project, What You Sow. We've got Laura Colmenares Guerra over here with the Rios trilogy, flying through. We've got Canadian artist Sabrina Ratté here, trying to speak very slowly because it's accompanying me it's gone its way. Here we go, we're in Australia now.
Sorry, I gotta catch up a bit. Sorry, say this artist's name again.
Yeah, you gotta catch up for audio. So here we have Sabrina Ratté's Floralia. Sabrina is an artist who lives and works in Montreal. And we've got another Montreal-based artist, Bianca, Shonee, Arroyo-Kreimes, over here in the other disparate corner of the exhibition with the Last Species on Earth series. That's where we find ourselves now.
And we're Jonathan, Carol, and
I'm Kat Blimke.
say it again.
And I'm Kat Blimke, and we're digital exhibitions consultants for the MacKenzie Art Gallery. And we've been spearheading this project called Detail with the MacKenzie Art Gallery since 2021, which stands for the Digital Exhibitions Toolkit and Art Installation Launcher. So with that project, we're specifically looking at the common problems that our artists, organizations, curators have with exhibiting digital art on digital platforms. That is that things are very expensive if you have to hire developers, because technical knowledge is can be a large boundary for creating these types of shows, and that the most common platforms such as social media that we're used to going to on the internet are very restricted and don't allow for a variety of media that artists might be working with, for example, interactive or perhaps like things that you want to see in VR, or different types of platforms that won't support it. So with Detail, we've been looking at using the software Unity for, just getting my mouse back. We've been using the Unity 3D platform to create a number of templates and workflows for a variety of digital media, using these digital exhibitions as pilot projects to not only sort of direct us in the types of things that artists and curators want to see on the on a digital exhibition, but then also to prototype these things so that audiences later on can use them for their own projects. And we'll be releasing those. There'll be a soft launch this fall, and there'll be the full package will be made public in 2024, so it's in a year from now. But you're getting some sneak peeks throughout the next couple of years of programming from the MacKenzie Art Gallery through our digital programs.
So can you explain the process a bit more? It starts there's the detail toolkit that you mentioned, but then there's also a series of exhibitions that explain how they are connected.
Yeah, so with the digital exhibitions that the MacKenzie's been putting on, these exhibitions are curated by selected partner curators who are independent curators that often have worked with digital media. And so we've invited them onto the project to select a number of artists whose practices they think are very interesting, that intersect with digital media or could be presented in this format in an interesting way. And then we present these exhibitions as the MacKenzie Art Gallery for audiences then at home who can kind of see what is possible, not just with like what type of media artists are working with nowadays, but also like what kind of tools, what kind of interactions, what kind of platforms you can expect from our tools that we'll be launching later on. So for example, what you have here, we're in a shared space. So Jonathan and I are both on our own computers, but accessing the same exhibition and able to have this multi-user voice experience where we can hear each other, we can chat, we can both go up to an artwork like this and interact with it. However, we've also made it so that your interactions aren't going to be impacting anyone else's. So by that, we mean that you're getting your own little experience of this gallery space, and you're witnessing it as the curator intended, and the interference from other participants who might be maybe playing around in these interactive spaces a little more.
Can you explain some of the interactions that are possible in this exhibition?
Yeah, so here I'm in Tamiko Thiel at /P's What You Sew project. So this is actually a project that was altered from its initial form as augmented reality app. It's been instead it's been placed here. We sort of took the components apart and reimagined it for this different space, this virtual space for the virtual exhibition that you can experience on VR headsets or on your desktop computer. And so with this project specifically, you're able to select these 3D objects that the artist had created that represent different kinds of disposable plastic. And through interacting with them, by clicking on them, you're able to grow a coral reef of all of these different objects. So the objects multiply to create these sort of rhizomatic structures that imitate the growth model of coral reefs. So of course, this is like the interaction here is very specific to the type of the subject matter that the artist wants to comment on. Sort of the sorry, 1 second.
I think there might be an issue at play. Yes, there's this.
Just putting out fires. But yeah, so this project specifically is really exciting to see on a digital platform as it was intended to be built and exhibited as one, because the interaction and the way that the audience is supposed to engage with the work is really critical for the artist's ideas and the artist's conception of the project and why it exists. So for the ability to present this kind of work is one of the draws for our building of the detail project. We really want projects like this which ask a little bit more of the audience than just perhaps like watching it passively, to be something that can be more easily accessed by organizations who are putting on this work and then also audiences at home.
Can you talk more about the idea of accessibility in digital art?
Yeah, so accessibility in digital arts kind of there's a lot of different elements to what you mean when you say that word, because of course there is a sort of easy access in the sense that some types of digital media are really available to people just at home, like they on their own devices. They can experience these things in a very safe environment or environments that they've created for themselves. Um, but of course, so if that's just like if you have a smartphone, if you have the hardware to experience these things, and that's the other side of accessibility. It's of course then that hardware issue. Like if you're in a gallery space, you're going to have lighting. They're going to give all these. They're going to be setting the stage for your experience. However, if you don't have access to those types of the kind of hardware that you would need to experience these things at home, that makes this type of work kind of elitist. And ways in which we try to grapple with that. It's not everyone has like the best computer or with the best graphics card or perhaps a specialized VR headset, is we look to kind of exploring different versions of experiences. So for example, with this project, you are able to experience it on a VR headset if you happen to have one of those at home, or if you visit the gallery access point at the MacKenzie Art Gallery where we installed this show on the headset. But you're also just able to go on using your laptop or your desktop computer, you're able to download the same exhibit, but for a different kind of experience that you use just your keyboard and mouse to explore. And sort of having for different versions of different types of basically access points for this, we're hoping that more people are able to experience the exhibition.
Then can you talk about the idea of the ways that we're thinking about accessibility in the overall detail project on the artist curator side?
Yeah, so the with artists and curators who are hopefully going to be using this project, we know that not everyone will be coming into the project with the same level of technical expertise. There's going to be a variety of knowledge, experience level knowledge, familiarity with this type of technology. So we have a couple, again, a couple different types of access points for these software itself. We've got um, sort of the backend version, which is like a repository with all of our different packages and plugins for Unity, as well as like workflows, so that you would be able to work in the engine to really like customize things. But we also have a version that a sort of an executable file, like a downloadable version that can work with Unity later on, so but they can still offer a variety of ways that you can like spatialize things. So let's say you have some JPEGs or some 3D objects that you want to move around in a space, and you are also working with somebody who is perhaps working more so in the back end of Unity, you can still interface with a different version of the detail project that communicates with the more in-depth version. So there's different, you're still able to get your hands dirty, you're still able to like work on the exhibit itself, but you're not, there's a little bit less of a learning curve with with the versions that we're creating, in order to, again, sort of speak to a variety of experience levels and comfort levels with digital software.
Um, Maybe now just talk more about the problems that we're trying to solve that artists and curators face, or at least the ones side.
Yeah, so first, maybe the overarching problem, of course, is well, I guess there's two. But
Sorry,
one
it's a
can
bit
always
loud
be
here.
solved.
Let's
Oh yeah,
move
let's kind of
slightly.
over there. Yeah, we're standing right next to the virtual speaker.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So we're one of the challenges that we're trying to address is the challenge of technical that different levels of comfort using technical uh, or technology. Basically, that this project, of course, is still heavily um, asking you to become heavily involved using the tools that we're creating. The project is still asking you to boot up your computer. So there's a level of uh, mandatory digital things that have to go on. However, we are trying to make some sort of prepackaged uh, templates and sort of suggested workflows that can make and tutorials that'll make this process easier and more approachable. That said, also while maintaining a really high level of customization available for those who want it. Still using some of those existing workarounds that we're developing in order to make the actual work that you put behind this your projects, your digital exhibition projects, a little less, because there's a lot of things out there that help you use these same tools to get a first-person shooter game up and running really quickly. And we're sort of trying to create the same things, that same type of idea, trying to get the creation as fast as possible, but for digital art experiences as opposed to a first-person shooter game. Um, the other problem, of course, is money. That these types of projects can be very expensive to develop, very expensive to maintain, whether that's because you're paying for specific platforms or plugins or sort of plug and play workarounds, or because you have to hire a team to develop it from scratch. We're relying on free software. Unity 3D is a free game engine, and wherever we can, we're trying to make use of free, building on with free additional plugins, but also building out our own that we'll be making available.
And can now maybe talk about a bit about the role of MacKenzie Art Gallery specifically, but then also the role that brick and mortar institutions are playing or could in the future when it comes to presenting digital art on digital platforms.
Yeah, so that the role the MacKenzie Art Gallery is play, they're really like the stewards of this project. They're um, they are the ones who are kind of holding well, they're helping us on through their organization, but then also they are host for the series of exhibitions that we are developing as we experiment with the different things, the different tools that we're creating. And the role of the MacKenzie and the brick and mortar institutions is that they can offer kind of their own approaches and their own experience from all the people who have worked there. Just throwing some beings around over here. Um, they can, like, there are existing methodologies that curators use for physical exhibitions that are very useful for these kinds of developing these virtual exhibitions, and all the ways of working with artists, and kind of relationship building that happens. These brick and mortar spaces still really applies the virtual world. But then we also are bringing a few new ideas around that are adapted from like video game or software creation. But it's really important that you have organizations like the MacKenzie Art Gallery getting behind these types of experimental exhibits, because they can also offer like a dedicated space where people can experience these things. Perhaps who might, even if they have computers at home, who might not be usually expecting to encounter this type of project. They might not be looking for digital art projects. And if they can still, the brick and mortar space can still really provide that central access point like this, like we have for this current exhibition. There's a version of it up at the MacKenzie Art Gallery right now.
Can What do you think are some of the things that we're bringing from that we are bringing from the video game or software development world to the installation process that is different than the installation process in a that might be.
Well, I'd say iteration is a big one. Kind of the ability to tinker with things beyond the opening of the exhibition is something that we are indulged in constantly with all of these shows as you really as more people experience the space, we do and with a variety of different access points or hardware, you're going to hear a lot of different feedback. Now, that also can happen in a physical space where perhaps someone's coming in with different knowledge or different insight about the project, like about the exhibition or a piece or an artist that you have in that show, or has access to a personal history or a familial history that can sort of shed greater insight into those artworks. And this is not to say that like an art gallery won't respond to that type of feedback, but we just have, because we don't have to close down an exhibit to move something and get a whole bunch of people in and make sure that everyone's safe and that on all the artwork's safe. We can sort of continue to play around with spaces as we continue to get feedback. These exhibits continue to develop themselves beyond the opening date. And that's kind of exciting to be able to do. Of course, it's a lot of work as well, but such is the nature of work, being able to tinker endlessly with your projects is you might find yourself revisiting it just to get it perfect over and over the course of its lifetime of 3 months. Um, and yeah, so iteration I think is something that we're bringing into that space. And yeah, just using a bunch of new tools and kind of getting familiar, like asking people to do um, more interactive audience members, specifically asking audience members to do things that they might not usually do in an exhibit, like touch the art, like throw the art around as we're doing right here.
Yeah, talking about iteration, can you talk more about the prototyping process and how iteration plays into that plays how iteration plays into the development of the detail toolkit through the prototyping of its digital extensions?
Yeah, so each of these, you can think of each of these artwork installations or even the entire exhibition as a prototype. That's how we've been referring to them, or pilot projects, where with in order to respond to how artists are actually making work versus our own assumptions about how artists are making digital work. We're working with the curators selected for this project and the artists that they want to exhibit as like art test studies. So that determines the kind of tools that we build. And so every new artwork that we integrate into an exhibit, we create a couple. It's a new prototype. It's a new tool prototype. So say you need to you want something like this where you can handle a 3D object, like handling it literally, quite literally in this case, where it's something that you can collide with as a user, that you can interact with other people, and you can move it around and you see your impact on the space. If that's something that or here we have an artist who wants that, who is working this way, and so we create sort of a prefabricated tools for time an artist comes along, they can use the specific way that the workflow that we've developed to create this, and then do it for their own projects. And then over the course of 3 different pilot projects, we're developing a number of tools based off of um, you know, installing the work that the curators bring to us. So that's what has been solving problems for playing large video files on online exhibits that are just we're trying to make very small, or we're trying to install interactive things from augmented reality to a virtual space, or we're trying to figure out ways in which um, like just multi-user can be a possibility where you experience the show in conjunction with another participant, another audience member, like we are now. These are all things that we're prototyping through these exhibits, and then taking feedback from the artists, the curators, the audience members, and tweaking them a little more before all of these tools get released next year.
So why do you think a multi-user
Well, a multi-user experience is important, in specifically in this case, not only because the curator requested it, but also because it's something really fun, that highlights a possibility of digital exhibitions, the fact that you can experience them at the same time as people from around the world, that you're not geographically restricted to showing up at a physical gallery space. Um, and being limited by what type, by where you live. Instead, you're able to connect with people from around the world. The ability to see other people who are experiencing um, the work at the same time, the ability to virtually gather all at the same time and organize like a virtual opening, replacement for the physical presence, but because we're able to do it outside of these geographical confines, you're really just offering something new. And you're offering up a social element that has been always so critically a part of the art experience, discussing artwork, sharing it with a community. But you're just doing so in a different venue, and that's just the internet. So just taking advantage of what network technology can really allow and can really enable both artists and their communities. Um, why we wanted to experiment this time with a multi-user exhibition.
and maybe just closing out. Yeah, great. Um, just closing out. Why do you think it's important to build tools help facilitate the presentation of art on platform, or sorry, on a digital platform?
Yes, well, it's important. It's artists are usually constricted by what is, they're just by what's available to them by the market. Let's say, we're everybody's familiar with using large social media platforms like Instagram, or maybe TikTok to like advertise their work. But not necessarily, those aren't necessarily the kinds of places that you want to present your work. These are places that are very restricted towards like what types of things you can post, what types of things you can share, what kind of media, what kind of subject matter, and also just are really uh, um, uh, perhaps like they're not the spaces in which artistic freedom can really be pursued. Artists are always exploring different tools, but having something that is built specifically for artists versus for as a marketplace versus for something that's more designed to grab advertisements and prioritizes um, things with high engagement versus like just experimental work. Um, it's important to have things that can support the more experimental side of creation. So building tools for artists that might otherwise not be considered as like a target audience for any other like tool builder, who might again try to be more focused themselves for companies. looking to build things. It's still a very valid, there's still a lot of people out there who are using the digital media in really creative ways, that should also have some tools under their belt that are approachable and allow them to do different things and show their work, no matter, or rather, regardless of the kind of work that they are creating. They should have some tools that allow them to exhibit that work in its original intended form on the digital space.
Why did you personally want to create the work on the project, present their digital artworks?
Personally, because I am a digital artist who has gone who has headbutted these challenges of cost, of technical expertise, of platform limitations. I've encountered all of these things in my own practice, trying to create work and circulate my own work, and then, yeah, exhibit my work in different contexts, whether it's online or in gallery spaces. So I have a stake in this project. You have a stake in this project as an artist, and we're taking the things that we've knowledge that we've gained from just kind of trying to struggle against what already exists and bend it to our purposes, our artistic purposes versus our money making purposes, which that's not why we're in the for. We're not in digital art for money, but because I think I've seen other people and myself experience these challenges. That's why I want to just make it more the tools that I've developed or that you've developed, that we've developed together, more accessible. And the MacKenzie Art Gallery is a fantastic institution for helping us circulate these projects and explore them further.
Okay, great. Good chat.
Thank you. Thank you, little blob.
I'm going to sign off on the live stream now. That was a good sesh, I think. Will anyone live now? Going to come back tomorrow too. Again, you can join us at echoesfromthefuture.show to be another little octopus blob in here. And